Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Menachos Mem Aleph. We begin 9 lines from the top of the Tana Rabbana. Talis gefulo. You have a folded garment. So it's a 4-cornered garment, but typically you would put the tzitzis at the corner. Here it's folded. So what do you do now? You still have 4 corners, but 2 of those corners are at a fold. Chayeves betzitzis. According to Tanakama, you place the tzitzis at the current corners, at the folds. Rabbi Shimon Paiter says, no, you can't do that. It's not really the corner. So the talis is pater from tzitzis. V'shava, now all agree Shem kafla v'tafar, if you folded it but sewed it down, now you have no corners. Shechayeves. Of course, you will place your tzitzis at the new corners. Well, tafar pshita, obviously, if it's sewed down, and this is a newly configured beged, of course, these are the 4 corners. We're talking that it wasn't properly sewn. That's some sort of light stitching or whatever. So you would think perhaps it's not considered a permanent reconfiguration and therefore it doesn't qualify. The answer is it does. Rabba Barhuna, he came to visit Ikla Lebei, the home of Rava, Bar Rav Nachman, and notices that he's wearing this folded talis with the tzitzis placed at the current corners, at the folds. He notices that he was wearing this doubled over talis with the tzitzis placed at the present corners at the folds. Okay, if shita, and then he notices suddenly the talis opened up, it's sort of unraveled, and where are the tzitzis? By his head, by the head. Right? So when he was covering himself now, the tzitzis were no longer at the bottom, at the end. They were up at his head. Right? So we have a folded talis. Tzitzis at the corners. But then when they opened up, right, instead of the corners being on the bottom, it opened up and the fold, which was folded, that ended up being sort of by his head, and the tzitzis were now hanging there, rather than at the actual bottom of the beged. The chutim, the strings, ended up by his head. He says to Lav Hainu Kanaf to Kasar Rachmana by Rai. That's not the corner that the pasuk speaks about by Raisa. Okay, so basically, there's no point. Also, Shadi, so you want the remove the beged, so he accepted this critique and removed the beged. And he got himself covered with another garment instead of this one. Amalei, so Rabbah continued with his line of questioning. He says, what are you gaining? So you're no longer wearing it, but it's sitting there and it's not properly. Doesn't have proper tzitzis. Amarlei. So he says, Misavras chayvas gaber. Who do you think tzitzis is a personal obligation? Chayvas talasu. It's a garment-related chiyuv. The garment needs tzitzis whether or not you're wearing it. So even when it's sitting on the side, zil ramila, go put tzitzis onto the beged. So an interesting machlekes. Do we say tzitzis is a personal obligation? Only when you're actually wearing the 4-cornered garment, do you wear tzitzis? Or do we say every such garment needs tzitzis, even if it's sitting on in the drawer? Leima masayale, perhaps we can support this point that it's a beged-related obligation from a brayso of the Hasidim. We had yesterday Hasidim Rishon, the earlier righteous people. As soon as they got 3 shalish means 3 etzbois, 3 finger widths of material into their beged. So beged wasn't even made yet. Okay, they were still beginning to weave their material, weave their beged. As soon as they got to this point of 3, which is a shi or a beged, right away they would run and put tzitzis on it. Even before it was finished, even before they got to wear it. Evidently, it's a chayvas talis. Well, you can't really prove anything from the Chasidim. Shani Chasidim, the righteous tzaddikim were the machmeri, anav shayu, they were extra stringent with themselves. Basically, they kept higher standards, but it is not necessarily a reflection of the actual halacha. Upliga de malacha. Now, Rabba's shita, that tzitzis is a chayvas ha-beged, even if you're not wearing it, is in disagreement with the malach. Okay, so the malach disagrees with him. Upliga de malacha. What was the story of the malach? The malach ashkechel Rav Katina. The malach meets Rav Katina. The michsi sadina, he's wearing a sadin, which we learned the other day, is pater from tzitzis, a linen beged. So basically, he has no tzitzis on him. Amar, so the malach wasn't pleased. He says, "You're never going to wear tzitzis. What's going to be with tzitzis? Katina." He called him Katina. Rav Katina. He called him Katina. Katina. Look. During the summer, you wear this sadin. During the winter, you wear the other beged, which has no tzitzis. It has rounded corners. What's going to be with your tzitzis? Right? It says sadina bekait. During the summer, you wear a sadin with no tzitzis. Misar bala, another type of garment with rounded corners, a heavy, thick, besisva that you do during the winter. Tzitzis shel tcheles mate aleh. What's going to be with tzitzis? Amalei Rav Katina responded to the malach. He says, "Anshisu aseh, just because I'm not looking to fulfill a mitzvah aseh. I mean, if it's sukkahs, you don't sit in the sukkah. If it's sukkahs, you don't shake lulav. I understand. There's a problem because you have a chiyuv. But here, look, unless I have a four-cornered garment, I'm not chayiv. This has no four corners, and it's whatever. It's part of for other reasons. So, are you going to punish a person for not cashing in on a mitzvah aseh?" Amalei says, actually, standard procedure is not to hold a person accountable for missing out on an opportunity, but when there's anger in the world, when it's a time of calamity, chas v'shalom, and Shinan in Shemayim they punish, they hold this person accountable. You should have sought to fulfill, to find an opportunity to do mitzvah aseh of tzitzis, and that's by the way why we wear tzitzis today. Typically we don't have four-cornered garments, but we look to fulfill the mitzvah. We actually go out and buy a four-cornered garment because of this Gemara, because we're meant to look and to seek an opportunity to do mitzvah tzitzis. End of story. Now let's analyze the story. Can we see from the story whether or not tzitzis is personal or beged? Look, certainly if the chiyuv is personal, I understand why the malach was not pleased. He says, look, you have a personal need to do mitzvah tzitzis. That's why he was held accountable for not putting tzitzis, not finding tzitzis. But if the whole mitzvah tzitzis is merely a beged related chiyuv, look, it's not personal. The beged is not a beged that needs tzitzis. What's the problem? It's not chayiv. Well, says the Gemara, okay, but on the flip side, but on the other hand, you're saying if it's personal, then he's going to be held accountable for what? He doesn't have tzitzis. He doesn't have four corners. Certainly the Torah obligates a person when he's actually wearing a talis which needs four corners. But but if a person happens to be covered with a talis which does not have four corners, which does not have a chiyuv, does the Torah obligate him to do so? Right? So either way, it's a little bit hard to understand. Ella, so really you can't prove anything from the malach. Because even if it's chayvas gavra, what's the problem? Ella, so apparently the malach was telling him like this. It's true, you're not chayiv. But, tatzdaki, l'miftar nafshach mitzitzis, is a person meant to find sort of bypasses. Tatzdaki typically means like a trick, some sort of way out. L'miftar nafshach mitzitzis, to exempt yourself from tzitzis, meaning, here you're wearing a sadin, here you're wearing... In Shemayim, they expect a person to bring himself to chiyuv tzitzis. So whether it's chayvas beged, chayvas gavra, it doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant. The point is, a person should look to fulfill every mitzvah aseh that he can possibly fulfill. Amar Avtubi bar Kisna, Amar Shmuel, continue on this topic of chayvas gavra, chayvas talis. So here we have halacha from Shmuel. Klei kufsa Klei over here means garments, right? So garments that are sitting in the kufs and the chest and the drawer, chayavim b'tzitzis. You have to have tzitzis on them, even though you're not wearing them, because he holds it's a chayvas beged. Even Shmuel would agree that if an elderly person prepared himself clothing for after his lifetime, right? Shrouds. Shaptura, in this case, there's no need to have tzitzis on it. My Tami, you know why? Because it's meant for afterlife. Torah says tzitzis which are suitable for wearing during lifetime. This one's not meant for that purpose. But says the Gemara, even though while it's in the drawer it's pata from tzitzis by ishata, but actually after 120, when it's actually going to be put on the person, certainly we place tzitzis on that beged, mishum lo yigel rush. If a person vilifies and belittles a poor person, like a person a deceased who cannot do mitzvahs, by sort of depriving him of the tzitzis, it's like cursing his maker, so to speak. So basically, we don't want to have the mace feel bad that he can't wear tzitzis, he can't do mitzvahs, so we actually put the tzitzis on the tachrichim. So that was in times of the Gemara, but Tosfos neither brings that nowadays we don't put tzitzis on the tachrichim, and that's because in those days it was derech to wear tzitzis. People typically had four-cornered begadim, so if he's not going to have it, he's going to feel bad. Why am I different? But nowadays, where it's not typical to have tzitzis, we actually go out and buy, right? So it's not a typical thing, it's not a standard practice, so there's no need to put we hide our tzitzis, right? When we go to a levaya or whatever. Amar rachva, amar v'yut, talis shenikra. What happens if a beged, a garment, developed a tear? Can I mend it? Can I fix it up? So it depends. Chutz l'shalish yitfar. So you have the beged, and it got a hole or something, right? So I'll take it to the tailor to give it a fix. So things like this. If it's within three, in this Gemara, by the way, means 3 finger widths, 3 etzbois. That amount of material is considered an amount which qualifies as be considered like the smallest sized garment, shir beged. That's why we seek to put out tzitzis within that range, right? Not too far from the corner, within the 3 mark, because that's within the edge. Otherwise, if it's too far in, then you have a shir beged between the tzitzis and the corner. It's not considered on the corner. Okay. So if a tear develops in the tzitzis neighborhood, so it means within 3 to the corner, I have a problem, because upon repairing it, there might be some loose strings, and that might be actually incorporated to the tzitzis, and it's not meant to be so. It's not meant for tzitzis, it's meant for... So if the tear happened farther away, beyond 3, that's not the tzitzis area, so you're safe. But within 3, that's a problem. Okay? Amar vidam, talis shenikra. So talis tor. Talis, by the way, means any garment. Chus l'shalish, beyond 3, so further into the beged, that's not the tzitzis area. Yitfar, you can sew it up. Teich shalish, within 3, which is a tzitzis location. Yitfar, you shouldn't sew it up. Tanya Mehacha, you find the same in the Brisa. Talis shenikra, if there's a tear in the talis. Chutz l'shalish, beyond 3, it's okay. Yitfar, teich shalish, within 3, we have the machlokes Ramei Omer lo yitfar, which corresponds to our halacha just mentioned. V'chacham Oimrim, they're not concerned about this confusion. Yitfar, you're allowed to do it. Now, V'shavan all agreed that in the following case, it would be problematic to repair something in this manner. So let's say you're missing a corner or something, right? So let's say the whole corner tore off. So you want to now transplant, okay, take another corner from another beged with its tzitzis still on that corner, an amma by an amma piece, and bring it over here and attach it to this beged. And there you go, you fix the beged and you have the tzitzis. You can't do that because the pasuk says, put the tzitzis on the corner of your beged. Now, this corner was not part of this beged when the tzitzis was put on that corner, because this tzitzis was put on this corner in the other beged. So you can't transfer it onto this beged. You can't bring even a huge piece, an amma by an amma, with tzitzis still attached, from one beged and bring it over, transport it to the other beged. You can't bring it from one beged or tcheles with its string still on it, and attach it to this beged. Rashi says like this. Let's just read it inside. 2 lines from the bottom. Says Rashi, I can't do that. Mishum, why? Torah says, put the strings on the corner of your beged. Now, were these strings hung up on the corner of this beged? No, they were put on the corner of the other beged. The Kanav said, because this corner, it wasn't from this beged. When you put the tzitzis on that corner, it belonged to the other beged. So you haven't really attached the tzitzis onto this beged. It was attached to the corner on the other beged. So you can't do this transplant. It's not going to work. On the other hand, Veshavan all agree. In the following case, it would work. Suppose he has an old pair of tzitzis, and he got himself a new talis, and he wants to save on the strings, and the old tzitzis is still perfectly fine. So he's going to unravel the old strings and now reattach it to the new beged. That's fine, because he's doing a totally new attachment. He's taking raw strings, which had been tzitzis, but now they're unraveled, and he's reattaching them, reapplying them. That's a brand new maisa. That's called hanging tzitzis on the new beged. That works. Because of course you got to make sure that the strings are in full length and not clipped off and shortened, right? Because you need to have the shiur. Now Taisus asked, why would I think it's mutter? I mean, of course, tzitzis needs a shiur. So the Rishonim answer, brings. We had learned the other day that you can have gardumin, right? You can have leftovers, remnants, right? Shortened strings, but that's only when the point of the Gemara is that's only when it's remnants of long strings. So you have a tzitzis that was long enough, and then it got shortened and shortened. It's still okay. But here you can't start with short strings. And the chiddush is, even though these strings were really worn out, they got shortened because they were worn out in the other beged. So originally they were properly sized. Yeah, but that's in that beged. You can't bring short strings to this beged. Here you're starting anew, fresh. Got to be the right size. Interestingly, the Brisa seems to allow transplanting strings from one tzitzis to the other. And we're not concerned about, degrading the tzitzis and shamas minah matirun beged lebeged. You mean to say you're allowed to unravel tzitzis strings from one beged and transplant them to the other? It's not considered an affront. It's not considered a bezoyin to the tzitzis. Says the Gemara, no, maybe it's because the old one wore out. He's not going to wear the other one anymore. And that's why you're allowed to. But otherwise, perhaps you can't. As we're going to see later, there's machlekes about it. Tanu Rabbanon. Here comes a new case. Talis shekulat cheles. Okay, so we learned the other day that the strings of the tzitzis is comprised of 2 colors. We have the white, which is min hakanaf, same type as the garment, which is typically white, so it's white. And you have the parshanut-torah-comment, the blue element as well. Now, what if your beged is blue? So typically you would have the same color as the beged, according to this Gemara. So what do you do here? You're going to have blue strings to match the beged in fulfillment of the first obligation of min hakanaf, and then you're going to have blue to fulfill the second element of parshanut-torah-comment. You can't do so. Torah clearly indicates we need 2 types. Torah says put the parshanut-torah-comment in addition on the min hakanaf. So it has to be 2 colors. It can't be blue and blue. So what do you do now? If your beged is blue, how are you going to fulfill min hakanaf? Tan Rabbanan. Talis shekulat cheles kol mini tzevayin in paichin ba. Okay, you can use any color. Rashi explains, because since you can't fulfill the min hakanaf 100%, you can't do blue. So any color works, and that counts as in lieu of white, as the min hakanaf. Kol mini tzevayin in paichin ba, but chutz mi kol ilan. Don't use color ilan, which is like a paint, fake blue, which they use to forge the tchelas. So you can't do that. Why? Why can't I do that? I have real tchelas and fake tchelas. 2 minim. The answer is, Rashi says, because others might not realize, and they'll mistakenly think that this is real tchelas, and then perhaps eventually this string will end up in somebody else's tzitzis as tchelas. So don't get involved in this kol ilan and this fake blue. Meisvei, here comes a kasha. Here we're saying kol ilan is unacceptable, and it's... Here comes the brisa, which seems to say, you know what, it's okay. Meisvei, talis ein poita belamina. So typically you have to have the right color of the talis, right? Talis shokolot tchelet, but if it's totally blue, maybe tchelet d'rachav b'telaba, so you have real tchelet, and another color. The color ilan, what about this problematic, fake blue? Lo, yeah, but you shouldn't use it. It may be kosher, but it's okay. So apparently it's acceptable, and there we say it's not acceptable. How do you work this out? Amar Rachmar Yitzchak, like Kash, here's the answer. Again, the concern is that it might end up in somebody else's hands as real tcheles, right? And he'll think it's real tcheles. So it depends. Like Kash, kam b'talis basar bo chutin. If your talis only has the proper amount of strings, so it's 4 tzita strings, which are inserted and doubled over, like we have, right? In this case, no concern about using a little kol ilan, because it's not going to end up anywhere. It's going to stay right here. You're not exporting your strings. You need it for your... Kan b'talis b'shmoina chutin. But if you have extra strings in your beged, you can do that. Rashi says, there's no issue about toisef unless you make a separate wrapping. But if you wrap it all together, you can have 4, you can have 8. You have extra strings. Like people have extra hadassim, So in this case, it's a real concern that one day you might meet your friend who's short a couple of strings, and you might loan him or might give him some of your strings, and he'll mistakenly think that it's real blue. So you shouldn't have fake blue in your tzitzis. Kam b'talis b'shmoina chutin. But clearly, it sounds like you can actually export your strings. Shamas mina matirim beg lebeg. Do you mean to say you're allowed to export tzitzis strings from one beged to the other? Perhaps you're not supposed to, but he did it. We're concerned that he might do it, even though it's not necessarily something that you should be doing, as we're going to see in a minute. Itma. We have a discussion about this. Rav Amar. So we're going to have 3 items that are subject to dispute between Rav and Shmuel. Rav Amar, first of all, ein matirin beg lebeg. You may not transfer strings from one beged to the other. It's not kavod to the tzitzis to have them, taken off this beged. Ushmuel Amar, listen, it's going from one tzitzis to the other. It's all in the family. Matirin beg lebeg. Likewise, regarding transferring a flame. Suppose, you have a Chanukah licht and you have one flame. Could I transfer that flame to the other one? On the one hand, I would say, no, you can't make use of a Chanukah flame. It's davar shivuk. On the other hand, it's all in the family. It's going to another mitzvah flame, right? Rav Amar Eimadlikin, you cannot kindle miner l'ner from one end to the other by mitzvahs. Shmuel Amar, you could, madlikin miner l'ner. And finally, regarding halacha of davar she'ein meskaven. A person needs to move a large piece of, heavy piece of furniture, a bench, but you're not allowed to make a furrow on the earthen floor. So what do? Well, that's not my intention. I just need a bench here. It's called davar she'ein meskaven. You're doing a malacha, but unintentional. Is that okay? Again, this is machlekes in Rav and Shmuel. Rav Amar ein halacha Reb Shimon b'greater. We don't adopt Reb Shimon's position regarding dragging. Reb Shimon says it's okay. We don't adopt that shita. Ushmuel Amar, you could do it. Halacha, Reb Shimon b'greater. We pass on Reb Shimon regarding dragging, because it's not intentional. It's not. Amar Abaye says Abaye kol mila de mar. Mar is Abaye's Rebbe, Rabbah. You should know always throughout his lifetime, in all his practices, he would do like Rav, Ovid Kirav. He would follow Rav's opinion, except for these 3 items just mentioned. Levar Mahani Tlas, and these he went with Shmuel, Ovid Kishmuel, which is number 1, Matirim Begel Lebeged, that's by the tzitzis. Number 2, regarding kindling, Madlik Mener Ner. And regarding dragging the bench, the Sanya, what do we have this machlekes? One may drag a bed, chair, bench, even though it's scratching the floor. As long as he's not intending. His purpose is not to make this fur. Can one hand his talis with his tzitzis, with the tcheles, to a launderer? Okay, to a goyish, to a laundromat? Is there concern that he might switch it to fake blue? Ravida Moshe lekatra. Ravida would give his talis to the katra, to the laundromat. We're not concerned that the whoever he is, a goy or whatever, will switch it. Rav Chanina avalo sisa. Rav Chanina wasn't comfortable giving it unless he made a sisa, like some sort of fold. He would sort of knot up the strings, and this would ensure that nobody tampered with them. Ravina chayit lu mecha. Ravina would go a step further. He would sew it into a fold. He would hide the strings in a fold in the beged to keep it out of the way. Okay, now how many strings do we have in the tzitzis? How long are they meant to be? How close to the edge? We have how many strings? will one put in his baguette? B'shama Imrim Dalet. It's 4, as we learned the other day. Gedilim tasalach. Gedil means 2, a braid. Gedilim is double that, which is 4, as we do. Ubesil Imrim Gimel. According to Beisil, it's only 3 in total. Gedil just means 1 string, Gedilim means 2, and then we have the Psil Techeles, so it's a total of 3, which are folded into 6. V'kamete Mishaleshes, in terms of the loose portion hanging down, how long is that going to be? V'shamar Imrim Dalet 4. When we say 4, we mean 4 etzbois, 4 finger widths. Ubesil Imrim, no, it's shorter. It's only 3 Gimel. Now, the Gimel Shebesil Imrim, we speak about the 3 finger widths. Achas ma'arba b'tefach shekol adam. So basically, a tefach is comprised of some fingers, right? How many fingers? So it depends what finger you're counting with. So as we're going to see in a minute, a tefach can be measured different ways. If you're using a pinky, it's 6 pinkies. If it's a thumb, it's 4. So here we're talking about three thumb widths. Achas ma'arba b'tefach shekol adam. The number 3 of Beisil, and some say even relates to Beishamai as well. The point is that we're talking about what type of finger? A finger which would comprise 1/4 of a tefach, of a typical tefach. So it's the thumbs, 4 which make up a tefach. Amra Papa, okay, on this formula, what is a tefach d'oraisa? We find a tefach in the Torah. Well, how much is that? How do you measure it? Dalet b'goydel. If you choose to use your thumb, it's 4. Shis b'ktana, pinky, it's 6. Chamesh b'tilsa. Or it's going to be 5 using the pointer finger. Okay, so it's basically you end up in this. You end up in the same place. Depends on which finger you use. Amar Rav Huna. Let me give you an easy way to remember how to configure your tzitzis. Dalet, 4 strings. B'soich dalet. It's going to be within 4 to the corner, not 3. And Mishalesh dalet, it's going to be 4 long. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, no, he said it's all 3. Gimel, 3 strings. Gimel within 3 to the corner. Mishalesh Gimel, loose hanging part is only 3. And we take a middle root. Amar Papa, what's the Hilchasa? Dalet, 4 strings, which of course are doubled into 8, as we do. So Shalish within 3 to the corner. Mishalesh is Arba, 4 long. Remember the Islu Shir, do you mean to say that tzitzis, strings, have a requisite size? Raminu, we have a brisa which seems to say it has no size. Even a teeny one would work. Tzitzis. Torah speaks about tzitzis. Ain't tzitzis ela yoytze. What is the definition of tzitzis? Protrusion. Strings hanging out. Ain't tzitzis ela mashu. Even a drop. Doesn't have to be long. In fact, if our Olu Ziknei Beishamai, Ziknei Beisilal, the elders of Beishamai Silal went up to the upstairs, Lalias of Yochim ben Beseira, V'amra, they declared, tzitzis ain't no shir. There's no shir for tzitzis. Likewise, Lulav ain't no shir. Lulav doesn't either have a shir. Let's assume it means literally as short as you want. My love, ain't no shir klal. You mean to say assumingly it means it has no shir at all. Even a small teeny length doesn't have to be 3 or 4 etzbois. Loi says the more incorrect. Ain't no shir lamalo. There's no maximum size. You can have it as long as you want. Of course, that is a minimum. In fact, you're comparing it to lulav, which certainly has a minimum, as we all know. Otherwise, you don't agree with this interpretation. How do you compare it to lulav? You're telling me, likewise, lulav also has no shear, ain't no shear. Do you mean to say the ain't no shear klal could be as short as you want? That's incorrect. We have a Mishnah in Sukkah. It has to be at least 3-4 tvachim long. Lulav she'esh by gimel tvachim has to be 3 plus another tefach. Kedil and anybody to have that shaking area on top of the hadas and rabbis. Only there it's kosher. So certainly it has a minimum. Likewise by tzitzis. Ella rather by tzitzis also means ein lo she'er lamala means has no maximum. Make your strings as long as you want. Ein lo she'er lamala v'yesh lo she'er lamata. Of course that is a minimum, as discussed. Okay, so we spoke about a folded talis, where to put the tzitzis. We spoke about tzitzis chayvas gavra, chayvas talis, spoke about the importance of looking to fulfill mitzvah tzitzis based on the discussion with the Malach and Rav Katina. We spoke about repairing the torn beged, how close to the corner. We talked about a blue beged. We talked about matir mi beged lebeged, Machlokas Rabbi Shmuel, 3 things. We spoke about number of strings, closeness to the corner, and the length. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rab.